Welcome to my tutorial for Contra Operation Galuga. This is for my 1cc hard mode playthrough. And this was with a health meter as well, so this wasn't the one-hit death mode. I did complete the one-hit death mode on hard with perks, which took me a little bit over 6 hours. I mean, that was pretty challenging. This was a lot easier. This took me, I think, around 2 hours, 17 minutes, something like that, to complete. And you know, this wasn't as bad because I already knew the game pretty well at this point, and I had already played through with one-hit deaths. So it got to the point where playing through the game with a life bar, you know, it almost felt like using like a 40 lives code or something, because by the end of this mode, you know, I had probably like 8 lives or something amassed from getting 1-ups and shit like that. So it pretty much felt like I was invincible, and if I wanted to, I could have ran through the last few areas of the game, the last few stages, you know, and just did it faster, like speedrun kind of shit, and just, you know, tanked some of the damage and shit, you know. But I wanted to stick with what I practiced and, you know, try to have a clean run. I felt like the run was fairly clean until I saw my stats at the end, which I think it said that I died like 9 times or something, which when you're looking at 5 health bars like I have here, that's like the equivalent of losing 45 lives. So I guess it wasn't too fucking clean. But, you know, the stages, I felt like most of them were pretty clean. I mean, I feel like I have most of the stages down pretty well by this point on hard mode. My biggest issue is that some of the bosses, I really don't know what to do on them. And my way of dealing with them was to either cash in my lives on the one-hit death mode, you know, just try to tank them and take them out fast with point-blank firing. You know, because the closer you are to the enemy, the more damage you can amass on them faster. So, kind of like Mega Man, because it changes the fire rate somehow. You know, because you can only have so many bullets on screen, I think is what it is. And if you're expending them into the enemy, it brings out the next bullet faster. So, so basically, yeah, that's how I was able to beat certain parts. I just took the deaths on the one-hit death mode, and I was able to get through it. So I never really learned those bosses. I just played super aggressively. So there's a few bosses where I just cash in damage, pretty much. So that's the sloppiest part of the run. I mean, this game would really benefit from a boss practice mode or a boss rush mode, so you could really practice each boss. But unfortunately, it doesn't have that, and there's no save states or anything, since the game is emulated on Switch, but it's 30 frames per second, which is a little shittier than this, which is, you know, 60 FPS on the modern consoles and PC. But the biggest problem is, you know, I could practice on the Switch if there were save states on the emulator, but I don't think any of the Switch emulators have save states implemented yet, where you can, you know, save and reload and just keep practicing apart. So it is a pain in the ass if you want to practice bosses in this game. You just got to kind of get to them and try to deal with them. But if you want to practice specific things, you don't really have a lot of opportunities. So the first stage is very easy, not much to say. I do have the perks on, so one of the perks I have equipped is the one that gives me 5 pieces of health, which ended up making the run really easy for me. You know, I think I only took 2 hits or something like that, which would normally be 2 deaths in the one-hit mode, but it would still be good enough to beat that. So all my practice was from the one-hit death mode on hard, and all my previous runs. You know, I beat the game. I think I beat the game. I think this was my 6th time beating the game, because I beat it on normal with health bars twice. Once on the Switch version, once on the Series X version to build up the kill list. And I also then I think I did normal one-hit death and maybe hard one-hit death. Or I think I did 2 hard one-hit death playthroughs. Something like that. But at least 5 or 6 playthroughs by this point. So that's where I got my practice. It wasn't from save states or anything. It was just from playing the game over a few times and, you know, beating several of the modes. I worked my way up to the harder modes, basically. So what you'll see me doing is I'm constantly swapping weapons, as I mentioned in my other tutorial, which was for the hard one-hit death mode tutorial, which you can check out as well. I'll link that in this description of this video. If I do anything harder than this, I'll probably make another tutorial. Like if I do hard one-hit death, you know, 1cc, or even normal on one-hit deaths at 1cc would probably be harder than this, I would think. But if I do anything like that, I'll make another tutorial. I'm going to probably try the extreme mode, at least the first extreme mode, which is with a health bar, but it's a 1cc mode, and everything is harder. But I may try that out. I think the bosses have like twice as much health, which is going to be the biggest annoyance, I think. So the biggest problem with these auto-scrollers for me is getting the wrong weapons. There's a way to minimize that. If you stay in the middle of these auto-scroller levels, you'll have more time to dodge the weapon pickups, so that is a safer way to play it. If you stay in the middle and just kind of pivot your gun and try to spawn kill everything as it appears, hold down the right trigger to fix your position, and then you can just aim your gun. And you can take out a lot of shit that way without moving too much. And then you can, if you do shoot one of the weapon power-ups that's floating by, you can jump and dodge it. It's always going to scroll to the left of the screen when it hits the ground, so just be ready to avoid those. That's like the biggest problem I had with these auto-scrollers. They would fuck up my weapon loadouts pretty much every time. I got better at it, though, by staying more in the middle. I also mapped my dash button to one of the back paddles on my controller, but most people aren't going to have a controller that has back paddles. But that does help, because then you don't have to be trying to hit the face buttons, while you're doing everything else. So I like it. I like having dash to the back of the controller much better. I also set my right bumper to auto fire. My controller has auto fire, so I can toggle it on and off. So I just hit the right bumper and it'll go into like rapid fire mode without me holding it down. So that's what you see here. You see me toggling my weapons constantly. It's set to auto fire, and I have to toggle it off and then swap to the weapons that I don't want or the weapons that I want to upgrade anytime I want to deal with like reconfiguring my loadout mid-stage. So that does really fuck up the momentum, and it makes it easy. The easiest time for me to take damage is when I'm trying to get my weapon loadout right. I'm trying to like configure everything on the fly. I probably could have paused the game and thought about it more or something to try to do it, but I don't really like doing that pause buffering strat unless I really need to. So I was just trying to play everything in real time. So you'll see I'm constantly switching between weapons, and that pretty much doubles your fire rate. So whatever two weapons you have are basically going to be firing at the same time on screen. So my ultimate loadout for this character is a double spread shot. I try to have two spread shots, one in each slot. And that's the best loadout for me. It really shreds bosses, and it pretty much hits everything. So that's what I'm trying to get, but it can take a while to get that, and then it's easy to lose it. So my second thing that I like besides the spread shot is the homing missiles. So I may go for that if I can't get the spreads. I don't really like the C weapon that much, the crush weapon, because it makes these black holes that makes it really hard to see bullets and shit, but it will eat up the bullets and all that, which is nice. And it does a lot of damage, but it's just like, I don't like the visual obscurity of it. There's way too many explosions in this fucking game as far as I'm concerned, and the bullets don't stand out enough. So that is a big issue I have with the game. Even though I really like the game a lot, but it makes it really hard to see bullets, and by the time you see them, you often get hit. That's why I just got hit here, you see, and it's really easy to just take hits. So you really don't want that when you're playing on the one-hit death mode, or if you're doing a 1cc on one of the one-hit death modes. Then that's not good. The idea, though, is to try to spawn kill everything as fast as possible before it has a chance to shoot. But I do recommend just jumping and moving constantly just in case something does fire. It gives you a little bit more of a chance that you'll dodge it. Because if you're not moving, a bullet will just kind of spawn right on your ass. You won't even see it a lot of times. At least that's what happens with me, and I'm playing 5 feet from a 65-inch screen, so I got to actually turn my head sometimes to see other parts of the screen. So by the time I look back, I'm sitting on a bullet. So I've been trying to get this monitor, 32-inch monitor, which I think will be better for these kind of games, but fucking scalpers, it's really hard to get anything these days. So I'm waiting on that. I'm trying to get an OLED 32-inch for my desk. I'm using a 65-inch OLED while I'm playing this, and I'm only sitting about 5 feet back. So yeah, it would be nice if the bullets were, more of a standout color or something like that. And, the explosions as well, they just kind of obscure everything, so it's difficult to see what the fuck is going on. And, the bullets are so many different colors. You have orange ones, like these mortar bombs, and, they're never the same color. So there's just so many varieties of them. It's just hard to keep track, especially in your peripheral vision. So for this boss, this is another boss I never practiced. So usually I'm just trying to get in as much damage as I can. I mean, I try to dodge his weapons that he's his enemies that he's throwing at me. And I didn't take too much damage this time, I don't think. I usually play this guy much worse. I mean, I could get it down consistently, but I'd really need to practice some of these bosses more. Even though that's an easy boss, I would, need to practice it more and really get the patterns down, especially for the harder bosses. But there's no easy way to do that as of yet. You just get to the bosses. You have to get through the whole fucking stage, which the stages could be 6 to 8 minutes long just to try the boss for a few, for like a minute or two. So I'd like to practice some of the bosses for over 30 minutes each. Isolated practice like I would when I would beat something like Ninja Gaiden 3 for the NES. A game with limited continues. I like to really practice each section and master it. I'll do a practice run with save states on these harder games that have limited lives and continues, and I'll really try to I'll get it to the point where I can do a part like maybe 3 times in a row without failing, and then I might move on to the next section, and I'll just practice state through an entire game, and I'll learn games like that. Once I complete a full practice run, then I'll start doing full runs of the game usually, and I may go back and practice certain sections that I'm having trouble with, repractice them, but. You can't do anything like that in this game as of yet. So your practice is when you get there, you just try to react. Maybe I could have studied some videos on patterns and stuff that might help, but I didn't do too much of that. I mean, I didn't really have to at this point, because even the one-hit death mode, at least you can continue. I mean, on hard, there's no checkpoints, but at least you can continue on the beginning of the stage, so I would just do it that way. It just takes longer. But I never really got good practice on the bosses, and especially a few of them are quite hard. So here I have spread and homing, which I'm, of course, alternating between continuously. I'm always going to be alternating no matter what, even if I don't have the weapon in the other slot. I think it speeds up the fire of the gun that you have regardless. The only thing it completely fucks up the flamethrower. So if you get the flame weapon and you actually want to use it properly, it'll be totally fucked up if you have the auto fire going on the weapon swapping. Now, of course, if you don't have auto fire, you're just going to be manually tapping the right bumper or the left bumper to weapon swap while you're firing, and that's how you do the trick. But you're probably not going to be using it all the time if you don't have it set to auto fire, because it makes it harder to move around and do other shit while you're mashing the bumper the whole time. So. Depending on how comfortable you are with, trying to do that continuously, that'll determine how much you use it. It is pretty easy to use, though, when you're standing still and firing on a boss. You can get a lot of free damage in if you use it that way. But it does help throughout the levels, too. It really clears out enemies faster. So right now I have a spread shot and a homing. The problem is that, your weapons level up when you get duplicates of the same weapon. But it's so fucking hard to manage the way I'm playing because, like I said, I'm constantly weapon swapping, right? So it's like a 50-50 chance that if I pick up a spread shot, it's a 50-50 that it's going to level up my spread shot, right? Because if it happens to be cycled onto the homing weapon when I pick up the spread shot, then I don't get credit for it. And it doesn't get banked, so I won't get that level 2 upgrade. So, like, if you want to upgrade a weapon, you got to be holding the actual weapon that you want to upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to upgrade your homing, you better make sure you're holding the homing weapon like it's equipped when you pick up the homing icon, because if you don't do that, you don't get credit for it, which is kind of shitty. But on the flip side, it does allow you to do stuff like hold dual spread shots. So I don't know if there's a really good workaround for that, because dual spread shots is fucking awesome, and that's really the goal. So if you do pick up, say, a spread shot when you already have a spread shot, but say your other slot is a homing, and if you have it like randomly cycling, you may or may not get the double spread shots because it's just going to land on whatever it lands on. So that's why I was saying I would get killed a lot. I learned how to configure faster on the fly, but keep in mind I have to toggle off my auto fire by hitting the right bumper once. Then I have to use my left bumper to swap to the weapon that I want to upgrade or the weapon I want to get rid of. And then I got to pick it up. But, while you're doing all that shit, it only takes one stray bullet to kill you if you're doing the one-hit death mode especially. Not a huge deal when I have so much health here, but still. Now, initially I did try the game with Brownie, and he has a little bit less health. So that's why I like this Lance character. He has 1 extra bar of health, which is nice. He doesn't have the triple jump that Brownie has, and his double, Brownie's double homing can really shred bosses as well, but it moves a little slower. I think it's more powerful on most bosses, though, to kill them faster, but I prefer the double spread shot because it has more coverage and it moves a lot faster. When you have slower firing bullets, it just doesn't clear shit out as fast during the actual stages. That's where it becomes a big problem for me. So I would rather stick with one loadout for the whole game than trying to get different loadouts all the time. So I just went with double spreads for now, and I can't say if I'm going to continue this strat if I try to do a 1cc on the one-hit death modes or anything. I don't know if that's going to be something I stick with, but I'll definitely make any tutorials to update it of whatever I did, So to kill this guy the fastest is just go for his head and ignore the claws. And that's what I try to do. And I'm using my weapon swap too, which kills a lot faster, as you can see. I didn't take too much damage on this stage, I don't think. So it was fairly clean, I thought. But you see I'm already starting to amass lives off of points because I'm not dying too much at all. So I don't know if I've had any deaths yet. I know I've taken damage for sure, but I don't know if I've actually died yet at this point. I'd have to pay attention more. But, I'm sure I probably have on something. But it's been good enough to where I could amass some lives. So I'm starting to build up my 1-ups. I still don't have the loadout I want, which ideally would be, not only would it be a spread shot in each slot that I slot between, but it would be both spread shots being set to level 2. You know what I mean? Like ranked up. I don't know if I ever got that loadout for any real length of time. So, maybe later, but I did have to make do with a weaker setup than I would normally have on the hard one-hit death mode because of the perks that I chose. I went with I think I went with weapon retention, and I went with the perk that gives me like 2 extra life bars. But that means that I don't get level 2 weapons when I pick them up. Normally when I pick up a weapon, it'll be level 2 already. But I don't think I had that perk set up. So, I didn't get that benefit, so I had to rank the weapons up manually. So most of the time my weapons were level 1 because I'd lose the one that I had, or something would happen where I would just either lose it or it would get demoted if I took damage. So I didn't have both weapons at level 2 usually. But my goal would be to have 2 spread shots at level 2 each. That's always what I'm trying to do. But I don't know if I ever achieved that. If I did, it might have been later. So I did go through a little bit more of my strats and stuff like that in the other tutorial. This is probably more of a commentary on my run, but a little bit of a tutorial, I guess. There's not a hell of a lot to say aside from memorizing the loadouts and trying to move at a good pace. You want to find your rhythm through these levels. So most of it is just spawn killing shit as it appears and just moving when it's safe to do so, and getting into a rhythm with it. Eventually you'll know how fast you can move through the stages and not take damage pretty much. So you'll minimize your damage the more you play. It just takes time, practice. I recommend doing it gradually, like I did. Start on normal with health bars just to get a little bit of a feel of the layout. Have some fun with it the first time. Don't bust your fucking balls on the first playthrough. Try to enjoy the game a little bit, and then you could go next. You could go like hard with health bars is what I would probably do next. Or you could do normal with one-hit deaths. That's another increase in challenge. So you can do that as well, but normal still gives you checkpoints. So the big difference with hard is not so much the enemy aggression or the enemy health or anything. I didn't notice much of a difference with that. I think hard is a little bit more aggressive, but the big difference with hard for me was, is basically that there's no checkpoints in the stages anymore. So you got to do the whole stage on one set of lives. So that makes it a lot harder. I mean, it's not a 1cc mode or anything, but still, you gotta really learn the stages on hard. But if you're doing hard with a health bar, it's not going to be too bad if you beat normal with health bars. So you could do that next. It's a good little increase, and while you're kind of having fun with the game, you're learning the game as well at the same time. So you'll notice that you get better at the game each run you do. And then it's going to get to a point where it's going to be harder to see progress, and then you got to decide if you want to kind of, grind out that extra uncomfortable time to kind of learn the game and get better at certain aspects of it. I mean, for me, like I said, I would be able to, I think, really master this game pretty well if I could practice the bosses, in isolated practice sessions, and just keep playing them again and again for, I don't know, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it takes to be comfortable with the patterns, to where I could beat them like 3 times in a row without getting hit or something, is what I would want to, that's how I would practice. That's what I did with like similar stuff to like Super Smash TV, though. I will say that game had bosses that were so hard that I couldn't beat them without dying, really, but even in practice. And then Gunsmoke was so fucking hard, I couldn't even beat the bosses during my practice sessions. I would get a feel for them, and then I would beat them in my actual real sessions eventually. But one of the bosses took 9 hours. Gunsmoke was an extreme 2D game that I did a tutorial for on the challenge. The arcade version, was fucking insane. But so it depends how hard the fucking game is. If it's as hard as Gunsmoke, which I haven't really come across at all in games that I've worked on, really, then I might not even beat the bosses even in practice. But for a game like this is pretty standard stuff. So for the old NES days that I come from, this is a pretty normal kind of difficulty. So I mean, I would definitely be able to learn all the patterns and stuff. But I would like to have an isolated boss practice mode. So these guys do grab you and bring you up to the top of the screen, and then I think if they bring you all the way up, you'll die or get hit. But I don't think I've ever had that happen. Because as long as you're firing up and a little bit up diagonal, you'll probably, just sweep the screen a bit. I do recommend the 360 aiming, gives you more control of your aiming in the settings. I also actually used an analog stick for my character movement, which, I normally probably wouldn't do in these kind of games. I like D-pad for certain things, but you could use the D-pad if you like, but I felt more comfortable with the analog stick for this game, so that's what I used. It does take a little bit longer to get to a prone position using an analog stick. There's a little bit more of a delay since it's more of a throw distance for the stick, whereas a D-pad you just click it and you're in prone, But so for this part, I get right under this thing and I usually tank some damage, and I'm just shooting up at it. And I even try to jump to even get closer range, point blank it a little bit and cram more bullets in. And I just like barely dodge it, you know what I mean? It's really fucking sloppy. And that's always what I've done on that boss because, like I said, I would just get here with all my lives. Because I learned this stage to the point where I probably wouldn't die on this stage, or if I did, maybe I died once, I'm not sure, on the one-hit death mode. But I'd pretty much master the stage to where I wouldn't die, or close to it. So when I got to the boss, I'd pretty much have, most of my lives. And I would just cash him in and just tank the boss. So, when you're using those kind of strategies, I use whatever the game allows. So if I want to be challenged more, I'm usually going to make the game more challenging by, choosing a harder mode or something. In this case, I added a little extra personal challenge with the 1cc, but it really wasn't much harder. I mean, it was easier than the other run I did on the hard one-hit death mode challenge. I think it was easier than that. But it could be because I learned the game more by this point. But I found it easier because on the later stages, I ended up with more lives to fuck around with, and I had tons of health left over. So, I mean, to me, it felt a lot easier than doing the hard one-hit death mode. Even though I could continue from the beginning of the stage. I didn't get stage checkpoints, but still, that hard one-hit death mode is still pretty hard, even with perks, because there's stage 6 was quite difficult. That's the hardest stage for me, and the most irritating. So this is another auto-scroller stage. And this is the same principle of, I go by the same principles with this than the other stage, is where I pretty much stay in the center of the screen and I mostly use fixed aiming to just rotate my gun by holding the right trigger and just aiming my gun mostly. I do, a mix of jumping around and killing stuff too, because I don't like to stay in one position all the time because of, like I said, the bullets. I find the bullets just appear on my ass when I don't even see them and I get damaged. So keep in mind that, I don't think I mentioned this in my first tutorial, but every enemy basically has a timer attached to their heads, if you think about it. So when an enemy appears, it seems like they will fire their first shot after the same amount of time each time. Now, I don't know if that's completely accurate, but that's kind of how I processed it when I played the game, and it worked well, and that's what I do with a lot of these games, because usually, the enemies will wait a little while before they fire. So The idea is to spawn kill the enemies as fast as possible before they can get out that bullet. That's what I'm trying to do. And it doesn't always work out that way, but that's what I'm going for. But I also, because I get blindsided a lot on a big screen, I also move around a lot because I can't always see the bullets in time when I'm looking around on the screen. So I might play a little differently if I was playing on like a smaller monitor or something. But, I am still able to adapt to it. I was playing clean enough to amass a lot of lives, but still I did, I'm sure I took a lot of damage overall based on the fact that I think I died 9 times, which is a lot. Because, I have 5 health bars, so, that's like, I must have got hit like 45 times or something. So it'd be like, playing through with 45 lives code or some shit, like, pretty much. When you think about it like that, that's basically what it is. So yeah, it's the same thing, staying in the middle and clearing out all the spawns before they fire on you, pretty much. And the reason I say staying in the middle, I used to stay all the way to the right edge of the screen and fire on the enemies, but the reason I say stay to the middle is so you can avoid the weapon power-ups. Because see, now I do have double spread shots, but they're not ranked up. They're just base double spread shots, rank 1 or whatever. But now I've earned 8 lives. But yeah, this boss is always sloppy for me. I try to point blank it, as you see. I think I may have gotten hit there, which... it's not horrible. I usually do a lot worse on that boss. I still don't really understand where and when to be. You got to know where to position yourself, and I just haven't got enough practice on these bosses. I got lucky on some of these encounters. So, I don't have great advice, but I try to jam in a lot of bullets on that boss. But yeah, the idea is I'm mostly staying near the middle. I used to stay all the way at the right edge of the screen and clear out all the enemies, and it works. It works very well until... you pick up something you don't want, and then it all goes to hell because you might end up with a flamethrower. And if you're constantly weapon swapping, basically the flamethrower just doesn't work. It won't even fire properly. So it fucks everything up. It can totally fuck up the run with what I'm trying to do. So I stopped hanging out at the right edge of the screen on these auto-scrollers, and for the most part, I try to stay in the middle pretty much the whole time if I can. Because see, now I can dodge that stupid flamethrower shit. You see how I dodged it? Because it's always going to scroll to the left of the screen when it hits the ground. Otherwise, you're going to be grabbing power-ups in midair or... basically, because what happens when you're all the way on the right edge of the screen and jumping around and firing is you will hit the power-up in midair because as soon as it spawns on screen, you're not going to be able to react to that. You're not going to see it coming. It's just going to get shot by your gun and you're going to collect it midair. And that's it. Basically you're done. So you're going to fuck yourself over. Weapons are really important in these kind of games. You really want to have the right loadout. You don't want to get fucked over by picking up shit you don't want. You can see how fast I'm clearing shit out with double spread shot. Only one of them is level 2 now. But it's clearing out shit super fast already. And this is getting closer to my optimal loadout for this game. So far anyway. Who knows if I'll discover something with the other characters later or... try something different, but I'm guessing I'm probably just going to stick with this character and get used to this character because I like double spread shots so much, and I'm so used to it in my muscle memory, this is how I've practiced the game, so, by this point. So now I finally got 2 level 2 spread shots. I don't know how long I'll keep it for, but this is the optimal loadout for me. But you see, it took me to end of stage 5 to get this loadout, so not very efficient. I can't exactly take my time with picking up weapon pickups while it's auto-scrolling, because I can't untoggle the weapon and then select it and do all that shit while this is going on. So I just got to, I'll pick it up. If I see a spread shot, I'll pick it up in the hopes that maybe a 50-50 chance that I'll get the upgrade. But I don't have time to configure it or anything like I would on a regular stage. So for this, my strat was always stay at the right edge of the screen for this boss. And just kind of jump up and down, but just always aiming at his head. And, don't jump unless he's spinning around because you want to try to put all the bullets in his head as close range as possible. When you jump, you're creating a distance between your head and his gun, so you're not jamming as many bullets in. So remember, the closer you can jam bullets in, especially with the double spreads, you will just fucking shred shit if you can do that. So try to do that whenever you can. But when he starts spinning around, I just like to keep jumping, and generally I don't get hit when I do that, but, I can get hit. But it minimizes damage. I feel like that's a pretty safe way to play that boss and pretty reliable. So now I'm up to 9 lives because those auto scrollers are almost like freebies, as far as gaining some 1-ups and stuff. So at this point, I can take 45 fucking hits. It's like having 45 lives on one-hit death mode. You know what I mean? It's like putting in a fucking cheat code at this point. So if I wanted to, I could rush through all this shit. But the reason I'm playing it carefully is because I just want to play as I practiced. I want to still try to play cleanly. I wasn't trying to do a speed run or anything, so I just wanted to play it cleanly and just, do the 1cc, but do it in the way that I practice. So this stage, I play it in a very methodical way of taking everything out first and then moving. So you can see me taking my time, but you do have to watch out. Those bullets do come out pretty fast. Just got to be ready for it. But once you've memorized the stage, you're going to know that these guys are always going to shoot. Now, my biggest problem, see how I took that hit, is getting stuck on the ceilings. Big problem for me. That does fuck me up a lot. So, that was my fault. Usually I wouldn't get hit at this early into the stage because I was doing one hit. I was doing hard on one hit kill mode. So, like, if I would have lost a life this early, I would have suicided the rest of my lives. And, it does happen. I would fuck up, but I would just suicide because that's what sucks about this game, too. The menuing kind of sucks. There's no quick restarts or, anything if you're doing a regular hard run, where you're just using continues or whatever. So I wasn't trying to pick up the homing missile this time as I normally would, because normally when I start this this stage butt-ass naked without any starting weapons, I would be trying to get the homing. But as I mentioned in my last tutorial, you can reload your saves if you're just playing on hard. You can reload your save at the beginning of the stage by going out to the title menu, and then you'll get your weapons that you came here with. So you don't have to start off with no weapons by just going to continue. There is a way around that on story mode at least. I think arcade mode doesn't allow that though, but you may be able to exit out before you lose all your lives and then reload the save that way and get your weapons back. I think I heard someone did that, but I didn't try it. So I got a little too close here. Very fucking sloppy. That never happens to me at all when I do my other runs, but maybe I was like, I had so many lives at this point, maybe I was getting a little sloppy. I don't know. Wasn't focusing properly, but got a little sloppy. I did get hit by some stupid shit like that in this run that I normally don't. But I had so many fucking lives, I may have gotten a little, a little lax. But this is generally how I play this stage. I don't know if this would have qualified in the one-hit death mode if I would have passed with the 4 lives that you get. So here I'm trying to configure my stuff, but I think I already had double spread at level 2 maybe. I don't know if I needed anything. Now I got the wrong weapon. You see what I mean? So now here I am. Homings are nice. Don't get me wrong. Homing is like the second best thing. So spread and homing is not a bad combo by any means. It's still nice, but it's really not what I want because I can't take out bosses as quickly with that. But it works. It's not going to really fuck me up too much. But, that's the biggest threat to me a lot of times is getting the wrong fucking weapons, Now, that spread shot would have been nice, but trying to get that thing would have been tough. Because I still have to try to get it in the correct slot while, I got this fucking thing. The weapon toggle is auto-firing the whole time. So while I'm on the handholds, I got to try to grab it. This is pretty self-explanatory. You just get in the gaps. I like to dash across here after this thing goes up. Mid-air dash and just run through. You want to make sure you extinguish these assholes, though, because they have to be killed twice to be taken out. Very annoying. So jump up here and kind of shoot downward, and you'll take out that turret. It tries to blind you with these gems, which is the worst design in the game. I really don't like that. So this part sometimes glitches where the bubbles come up through the ceiling. I don't know if it happened this time, luckily. I don't see it. So I'm just taking this shit out. I just walk forward through the flame and keep firing, and it will take out the other turret before it can fire a bullet out. Now that was sloppy. Normally I would take out that turret and then move down, but I just wasn't paying attention, so I got hit again. I would normally never die from that, but I am playing this a little bit sloppy. This is the general idea, but, certain parts you can see where I fucked up. For that part, I like to move down quickly, and I'll take out this turret first before I deal with the walls. See this stupid turret? Usually I don't stand on top of it like that, but I didn't clear it out in time. I thought it was dead. I wait for the weapon pickup to disappear after clearing out the turret down here. And now I move very slowly, and then I dash across these flames into that center part, and then I dash again. Now you're supposed to be firing up here and walking. See, I dashed right into the acid shower that you can barely see. That's why I hate this part, because you just can't see shit. And now my dash button didn't work. You know, sometimes my dash button, when I hit it, doesn't work on the back of my controller. I don't know if that's a controller defect or if the game sometimes doesn't register. I've had that happen a lot on that particular part for some reason, where the dash just does not work. You know, I mean, I hit it, but it just doesn't dash. So I don't know what's up with that. And that would happen to me even on my one-hit death. I would get killed because of that on the one-hit death mode, which is very fucking frustrating when you're trying to beat the stage. The stage took me about 3 hours and 20 minutes on the hard one-hit death mode, so this was a tough stage. So very irritated to lose lives for no reason. But yeah, with the acid shower part, usually you would be walking and firing up the whole time, and that will prevent you from getting showered, you know, with the acid. But of course, they like to hide it inside the gem where you can barely see it because it matches the color of the gem. It's green as well, so it's almost invisible. So now with this guy, I play super sloppy. I'm just point blanking this guy, and I don't have my double spread shot, but I'm playing extremely sloppy. I mean, I tried to dodge some shit, but it was just really sloppy because I never got proper practice on this guy. The only thing I ever do on this guy is just point blank him, you know. I had one time where I beat this guy without dying on the one-hit death mode, but I got really lucky with that. It definitely wasn't the norm. But here I have a lot of health and lives to burn, so I mean it's not too big of a deal, but it's really sloppy. I don't have any tips for this guy except for to try to point blank him and take him out fast with the weapon swapping. Double spread works really well, but I never got a chance to learn that guy. That's why, like I said, I really would like a boss practice mode so I could just practice these bosses for as long as I need to really get the patterns down. I mean, the game did have some considerations for hardcore players, but it didn't go all the way, which was kind of disappointing as far as, for one, maybe having, you know, weapons, you know, bullets more visible in some way because they're really obscured by the explosions, and second, having a quick retry on the menu to be able to start the levels over, and lastly, having some kind of practice mode, you know what I mean, especially for the bosses. I mean, if you don't want to have a practice mode for the stages, that's fine. I mean, I learned them after a while, but for the bosses, it would have been a lot more fucking convenient to learn the game. Otherwise, practicing the bosses means just replaying the stages again and again, which takes 7 or 8 minutes each, and then you got like a minute or two to try to practice the boss a little bit. It's an extreme waste of time, basically, if you want to practice the bosses. There are a few bosses like this one in the challenge mode, but they're modified. So you're not even fighting them with the weapons you would have, and there's like extra shit in the arena, and it's like, it's really not an ideal way to practice the bosses. So I would have liked to actually have like a proper fucking boss practice mode or something. You know? Those are some of my main issues with the game, but of course if it was an old game it wouldn't have any of that shit. But you know, now we have the ability to have all that shit. So for this guy, I usually start off shooting up at his head, and then I get on this left wall, which was a tip one of my subscribers gave me, and it's helpful to stay up on the wall. I mean, I still take damage, but it's a lot safer and faster than running around at the bottom, I think. But again, this is another boss I never really properly learned because, again, you got to go through like an 8-minute stage just to try this guy. You know, unless you play him in the challenge mode, but then they gimp you with shittier weapons, and it's just not the same. I mean, I guess I could learn them that way, but it's just like, I'd rather just practice it like the way it's going to be when I get to the boss. Or, you know, if I really need to go hard with the game, like if I'm playing without perks, then I can try to practice the bosses with the fucking pea shooter, I guess. If it really came down to that. If I was really trying to do like the extreme modes, then I guess I'd practice all the bosses with the fucking pea shooter, which would probably take super long to take them out. And it would probably take me a very long time to learn how to do them without damage. Probably spending hours on them, but I would like to have the option to do that if I was going to take this game seriously. You know, I'd want to sit there and you know, build my confidence with the boss fights as I would do with these kind of games. So this is one of the easiest stages in the game for me. I mean, it's pretty much a corridor shooter, running down a corridor shooting everything. And sometimes I'll stop a little bit to take something out. But I have a pretty good idea what to expect. But I find it to be a very easy stage. You may want to fire behind you periodically to make sure, because these guys are very fast. They're running aliens, and they will run right into you from the back of the screen a lot of times. See those guys chasing? They don't look that fast, but it'll catch you off guard if you're not looking behind you. It's fast enough to where I would take hits from them. So I do fire behind me periodically when I'm like not moving. Especially when I'm not if I'm running, then they pretty much run at the same speed I do. I think so. I don't really worry about it if I'm in motion. But the moment that I stop moving, I'm going to start firing behind me. Because that's when you get hit. But aside from that, just make sure you cover the ceilings and, like I said, try to have spread shots, or at least homing. So now I got double spread again, which is really good. I think only one of them is leveled up to level 2, but that's fine. It's more than adequate. See, I'm shooting behind me because I was stopped for a little bit too long. So the big thing to dodge here is the weapon power-ups. I'm not trying to get any of that shit because I got the perfect loadout right now. So again, another boss I really didn't have time to practice or learn. So, like I said, all these boss fights are pretty fucking sloppy. The hard part about that guy is that he throws out a lot of acid. His other patterns are pretty simple, I think. But he does throw out a lot of acid. Luckily, he will die pretty fast. But I mean, normally I would have probably lost, that would have been a shitty playthrough on the hard one-hit death mode because I probably would have lost 2 or 3 lives just on that, which would have been really shitty. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't have beat the stage after losing 2 or 3 lives because you do usually earn at least one up during the stage, I guess, on points, but it doesn't show any points really. But I guess there's a point meter somewhere because you get 1-ups eventually from killing enough shit. Usually at least once per stage you'll get a 1-up. I think some stages it might be twice, but I guess it also depends how much shit you kill. I mean, if you run through more enemies and don't kill as much shit, maybe you won't get them as often. I don't know. I mean, I don't really go out of my way to kill extra shit, but I will shoot some of the larger enemies to kill them just because, I might get some extra points, so I do that little bit of that. But so here I'm trying to get up on this top platform, but I usually don't get hit trying to do that, but it got sloppy. Once you get up here, you can kind of dash across and kind of stay on the upper platforms. I mean, maybe not so much here because this is kind of just, there's not a ton of upper platforms here, but there's a point where I stay completely at the top and it makes it much easier. Maybe it's this part. I don't know if I did it, though, on this run. I think I might have fell down in the bottom. Yeah, really sloppy. Normally I wouldn't do that. I don't know if my dash button failed on me again or what, but I got myself in a real shit position and I got the flamethrower, so I totally fucked this up. Normally this could have easily ended a level run if I was on the one-hit death mode. This could have fucked me over because that was really sloppy. So now I'm stuck with the crush weapon and the spread shot, which is all right for this boss. I mean, it'll kill him fast enough. This is another boss that I, of course, didn't practice very much. But I probably shouldn't have got hit by that charge move he did. I mean, that wasn't really that hard to dodge. I think he's almost dead now with the double. Weapon swapping does make fast work even if you don't have the optimal loadout. I think I dodged okay for the rest of the fight and took him out. But I got sloppily hit by his charge move in the beginning, which was pretty fucking sloppy. But I mean, I still have 8 lives, which, like I said, that's equivalent to 40 lives left over at this point. And I'm on the final stage with basically 40 lives in the one-hit death mode. I think when it says 8, it really means I have 9, so it might be 45 lives basically. So, equivalency, but it's a lot. I mean, I could just run through the whole game right now without even trying and just beat it. I could speed run the rest of the fucking game at this point. But I wanted to try to play cleanly, with what I practiced. I didn't really want to play it any differently. I mean, if I wanted to get a better time, I could just speed through the last few stages probably and beat it. But I'm not trying to do a speed run. So for this guy, is another boss I didn't learn at all. So I'm just soaking up damage and point blanking him. Basically, I'm not even trying to dodge much at all. I'm just trying to get close to him and take him out fast. That's about it. And I mean, at this point, it didn't even matter because, like I said, I had lives to burn. Not that I was trying to play badly, but I just never learned this guy, so I would always play this guy badly. The good thing about hard on the one-hit death mode, though, is on hard with one-hit death mode or hard with health bars, you do get a checkpoint on this stage after this boss. So on this final stage, you'll get a checkpoint right here on the hard mode. So that's the only part of hard mode where you actually get a checkpoint. Now, I haven't tried the extreme modes yet, but I guess you don't get a checkpoint in extreme modes at all because extreme mode is 1cc for both extreme modes. The extreme modes have health bar and no health bar variants, but one's ultra extreme mode, the other's just extreme mode. But yeah, there's no checkpoints obviously because there's no continues. But yeah, for hard mode, you will get a checkpoint after that boss, so you can use your 4 lives that you start with and just barrage the boss with those 4 lives. Just tank it, and you'll beat it. You don't even have to learn anything, and then you'll get to start here. So this stage can be tough. It didn't give me a lot of trouble though, like the 6th stage. It only took me about 40-something minutes on the hard one-hit death mode, so it wasn't bad, but a little challenging. You really just want to learn what to take out and when to move, where to move to. There's an end part that's kind of maze-like where it has dead ends. That was always the worst part of this stage for me. But you get pretty fast at it after a while. I prefer to keep my double spreads, you know. Try to clear out all this shit as I'm moving through. For this part, I will just duck and pivot while I'm prone, the fire behind me. But I actually dash right out of a prone position to keep moving. But when the spikes come down, I crouch all the way down. And then I just kind of, as the spikes are going back up, I'm dashing out immediately. And I can get through that part very fast doing it that way. I mean, it's probably almost like the way I would play that part if I was speedrunning it or something, probably. I do like to move, fast and aggressive when possible. For this part, I just fire my gun periodically when these things get close to me. It'll push them back or kill them, so. And then you can move through when you have a chance. You wait for the first blade to disappear, and then you move all the way forward, and you'll go through all of those. It's a lot easier than it looks. For this part, I just fire periodically, again, just to push some of these enemies back or kill the flying ones. The main enemies that I'm concerned with are these spinning things that just follow you until you kill them. So I like to kill this thing first and then dash to this wall and just jump up really fast. Now this is where it gets tough if you don't know where to go, and I made a few bad turns, but I corrected myself. You want to follow the correct path, obviously, but as you get up here, there's a little bit of a maze. I didn't get up on that ledge properly, but see, that's the proper path. I actually got it right that time, but if you do it right, it's not bad, but there's still shit that pops out. It's easy to get hit while you're running through. That spinning thing probably got me because my spread shots are weaker now. I'm used to having a double spread shot by this point on the hard one-hit death mode because I'm using different perks on that mode. So because of that, I'm getting hit more because I'm not used to playing with these weaker spread shots, so it's causing enemies to break through more, and I'm not ready for it, because I didn't practice it with this loadout. I mean, I usually use double spread shots, but they're leveled up to level 2 each, so that makes a big difference. So enemies will break through more often. They take a little longer to kill the multi-hit enemies. I think all the enemies in this game pretty much take several hits. It's kind of weird, but. So here I'm going to stand here until these things disappear because I fucked up my last 1cc run where I lost the whole run because I tried to rush ahead, and then I got the wrong loadout for the final boss. So now that I have double spread shot, the final boss is going to be very easy. I might get hit once or something. I'm not sure, but normally I might lose 1 life when I play this on the one-hit death mode. So I'm firing straight up using my fixed aim. If you jump, you'll kill it even faster because you'll pack more bullets into it. You want to get all 5 spread shot streams into the eyeball. So line it up so that you're getting all 5 in there. That's going to be faster. If you can do it. And if you jump, you're going to group them together even closer because the spread shot's grouped closer together at the beginning of the gun. So if you jump, you're getting in that 5 and you're really jamming bullets in there fast, as you can see. Now, I did get hit there, but I think I'm going to try to cross over now when the snake is not there. There's always some shit in your way, so it's kind of hard not to get hit. I think hard has extra bullet patterns and shit too, like more shit on screen. Yeah, so now, I mean, I'm just double spreading. I guess I played this pretty sloppy at this point, but I had so many lives. I basically had 8 lives left over, you know, so it was very easy. You know, because I had a lot of practice with the game. Like I said, I probably had over 10 hours on the game by this point. So, you know, the game is only about an hour long, so, you know, it's plenty of practice. Though I think I'm going to need a lot more practice to take down the, if I do go for the 1cc with the one-hit deaths, I'm probably going to need a lot more practice, especially the bosses. I need a lot of work on those, but yeah, that's basically it. There is somewhat of a safe spot that I found that I show in my other tutorial, so check that out for the final form of the final boss, but I don't know if it's always a safe spot. But if you stand on the outer edges of the hands, it seems safer than if you stand in the middle of the hand, so it might be something to keep in mind. Check out my review of this game as well. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.